In fact, Gauze is going to be speaking twice. Today, he's going to give us a preliminary into the Magyar language and the original language that was spoken here on the planet, and how that language has been perverted and being used against us. As you guys know about wordplay, and you know, that's what I'm talking about as to how the language is being used against us, and how the words in themselves have been perverted to use for you know, like I don't know how to explain it. Black magic, I guess. White magic, black magic, right? You guys know what I mean. You guys are smart enough out there. It's still pretty early. So that's it for me, guys. So I'm going to toss the stage over to Gauze. You know, Gauze is from Australia, down under. And, you know, I really appreciate his time, because it's at about 11, 12 o'clock at night over there.
Wow.
So I'm not going to take any more of the time. I'm going to toss it over to Gauze. Gauze, welcome, my brother. Thank you very much for your time here this morning for us, and your late evening. Really appreciate it, homie. You know, just give us a download, man, and when I'll let you know when you got about you know, about 10 minutes left, and then we'll jump in, and I will toss you a few questions, and then after that we'll bring our next speaker on.
Okay, no problem there.
So it's all yours, my brother.
Okay. By all means, if you feel to interject and ask a question at any stage that you feel is poignant to the thread of what I'm talking about, please do so. Otherwise, I'll just begin by saying that I'll start with some basics here, where this Magyar language, as we know it today, is the original root sort of language that we all used to speak before this event. We know that we're told about in the Bible and some other sort of, maybe it's in the Popol Vuh, I'm not sure, maybe some other places, that talks about the confusion of the tongues when God supposedly, allegedly, confused the tongues, okay? And I'm going to basically prove to you right now, using the language itself, okay, how this Bible is essentially a fraud, and a very clever fraud, and how you can discern it just by simply interpreting the first line of the Old Testament, or known as the Torah in sort of Jewish circles, and how to properly interpret that, okay? Now, at the beginning, it says, literally, in the beginning was the Word, okay? So let's define word. Now, in English, has many, many word meanings, duplicitous word meanings, same sounding word, but having all these different meanings of the same sound. Now that's confused tongues, where in Magyar language, every root word has its own meaning. So there's no confusion. So it can literally detail every aspect of life, right down to the finest tremor, the faintest hum, or even unseen but felt ripple, okay? And only this language can do so, has the ability to describe all life, okay? And this language was needed in the original Australian Dreamtime in order to be able to describe the whole Dreamtime, right down to the finest grain of sand, everything. It's the only language that can do it. Confused tongue languages, to varying degrees, are very, very limited to be able to describe all life in this regard. And the thing is that all life is actually, in the subtlest, finest, sort of delicate sort of aspects of life, have actually the biggest, vast affectations on all of life that we miss, because we speak in languages today that which literally don't have words and terms to describe such things, because English, being the worst confused tongue or language of them all, being a bastardized sort of version of a lot of different languages, was built as a commerce sort of language. So it's full of word terms that's basically just simple surface meanings that it's got no connection to spirit or soul, okay? So It's a very abbreviated, cutting sort of language that even when you have a word called tree, if you have a look at that word tree, what part of that tree word, T-R-E-E, actually lets you know any of your senses, your gut, your heart, your ears, your sight, your taste, etc., etc. Is it actually telling you? Like, guys, is there anything in that word tree that lets you know that it's a tree? No. So it's a senseless, non-sense-based, commercial term-based language. Okay? So the only way you're going to learn that beautiful thing out the door there, the tree, is actually that thing is written in fiction, tree, is a tree, is that you have to be taught that. Now, this is the process of intellectual colonization, where with the magyar language, the actual sound of the root word is actually comes from the same frequency and vibration in nature of what that sound actually is. So the sound of that word is actually connecting to that. And it was written in a runic script way in the symbol that actually describes a physical archetype that actually shows you the shape of what it actually is. It's just a 2D image that actually indicates a full omni reality of what that thing is that you're describing. Because life is omnipolar. It's not bipolar, okay, like they have in Kabbalah, the Boaz and Jacob thing. Because you look at it, is the sun bipolar? That's a ridiculous concept. It's omnipolar. It's going in all directions from the core, infinite. And creation doesn't get in the way of itself, unlike with Kabbalah, squared circle sort of nonsense. And this Kabbalah, which is the base that's basically infused and generated into sort of things like legalese language for the law system and our systems of government, science, medicine, literally this Kabbalah, how it actually came about, where it actually got sourced from, it actually got sourced from the whole entirety of the original magyar language, because the magyar language itself is the delivery system for source consciousness itself that comes through your soul. It's the language of the soul, okay? And this language is the delivery system so all of nature, organic nature, can communicate with itself. So we're going to get back to the first line of the Bible now, okay? In the beginning was the Word, okay? The Word is the language, okay? So what is the language of the Bible, okay? They tell us that it's Aramaic, okay? Now, Aramaic, that itself, okay, in the magyar language even today, the word Aram actually means stream or current, okay? And for simple English language purposes of just facile sort of comprehension, we can use the word river, okay, just to make it an easy understanding. So Aramaic, that Aram root word in magyar language today means stream, current, river. And the maic is a suffix that indicates, it's a plural suffix that indicates the people of. So it's the people of the river, okay? So Mesopotamia, that sort of area, Babylonian times, that's what it's indicating, those peoples at that time. Now that language, Aramaic, they tell us it's a Hebrew Bible. Now, I found out I got from a Masonic source over 10 years ago, there was a Jewish scholar that basically wanted to create, he wasn't happy with Bible translations because it's been translated from Aramaic into Greek to Latin, English. And every time it gets translated, there's all sorts of distortions and all sorts of priests and stuff that got their interpretations of the language and thinking, oh no, we're giving away too much here, no, we've got to change this. And so over time, it just gets more perverted and more perverted, okay? And lots of things lose their initial sort of real sort of intended meanings of the actual real words itself. So if you want to know the real meanings of words, you go back to the Magyar language and the root meanings of the oldest dialects possible you can find, because the Levite and Jesuit sort of linguist priests have done a lot of tampering with the actual language itself, the Magyar language, to put scratches on it, to basically even alter that itself, okay? So, and they've taken out a lot of the oldest words in the vocabulary. They've cut all the vocabulary down. Like the original Magyar language had well over 1 million words and infinitely more, because it has a natural sort of mathematics and everything to the language that it can literally keep on describing anything that comes up. It's incredible. And this Aramaic, okay, this Jewish scholar wanted to get his own he wanted to get a translation straight from Aramaic to English with nothing crap in between. So he decided to do it for himself. And what he found when he really researched into all of this, because he puts it forward in this sort of translation that he did, his own translation of the Aramaic. And he said, well, when I did my research, I found out that the Hebrew people at the time were actually speaking a language called Ashurit, Ashurit. That's not Aramaic. That's a different language. So what's Aramaic? I'll tell you what Aramaic is. I just told you then the root word sort of sound, Aram. Okay, it's in Magyar language today. I've got it here in a 1900 dictionary. The Aram, somewhere on my desk here. Anyway, it's there. And for me to get some of the old words, there's one particular author that my mentor and friend, who passed away in 2016, who taught me an incredible lot about this language and the magic of the language itself, because it is a very, very magical language, because we do come from magic, a very beautiful, perfect creation, because we didn't come from original sin, we didn't come from caveman, we came from a perfect creation. And that's all been covered up on us. And you'll see why as we further progress through this. Now, this Aramaic, it is actually a Babylonian dialect of the Magyar language that was spoken by what we know as Turanian tribal people, otherwise known as Caucasian people, and it had nothing to do with Hebrew people at all. Okay? Now we'll get to how it became allegedly Hebrew. Okay, I'll just finish the rest of the first sentence of the Bible. So in the beginning was the word / Magyar language. Okay, it's being a Babylonian dialect of the language. Well, it's the same language. It's just got a few different interchangeable dialect keys in the vowels and some consonants. It's essentially the same language. Okay, it's just like in English today, I'm talking in Australian, you guys are talking in American, Canadian sort of dialects. You're speaking the same language, but our language sounds different in its sounds. The way I pronounce some of my vowels and consonants are different from the way that you pronounce some of your vowels and consonants. So that's the difference in dialect. I could be speaking to an Irishman at the moment or a Scotsman with a really sort of thick accent. And at first, an Australian with an even rougher accent than me and a really thick sort of Irish or Scottish accent, well, they're speaking the same language in English at first, but they're having trouble understanding each other because the way they're actually pronouncing the sounds of the vowels and the consonants are sort of very different. But they're speaking the same language though still. So that's the difference between dialect. If you want just a simple, sort of clear, sense-based understanding, or I should say omni-standing, because we're not under the standing of anything except for the original omniversal law, that be which is the Magyar language. And I'll get into that, how that comes to be so. Well, I sort of explained that already in the sense that source consciousness itself, which we're all always connected with from our souls, that's what makes us humanely human, is always connected. Hence, we are all source. We're all unique, individual and collective, interconnected together as humans, aspects of source meant to be doing the true sort of meaning and purpose of our lives. Omniversal nature custodian work here from Earth. Because what happens here on the physical is all the foundations and principal foundations of all life that happens further up the tree. We're actually at the roots of creation here. And what happens in the physical, if we make things beautiful in the physical here, then everything omniversally, infinitely, is the same. But if things stuff up in the physical or gets completely destroyed, and life literally gets destroyed in the physical, in all its realms here, that's it. That's the end of all life everywhere else. So it's that important in the physical. Yet in the New Age, all the satanic sort of influence sort of stuff, theosophic driven sort of nonsense are out there, they're getting humans to think that your body is not important. Physical life's not that important. Nah, it's just that. We all came from the non-physical first. That is a crock of fucking shit. It's without the physical foundations, there's nothing else. So they've satanically inverted everything. It's a death cult mentality to get people to thinking, oh, we came from non-physicality. Sorry, the physicality and the non-physicality was always there. I won't even say to begin with. It just is. Just simply is. The isness. Contains all of it. It's a whole equation. And it's always equalized with an equal feminine aspect and an equal masculine aspect. Okay? So, we've got this conundrum then. So we've got a Hebrew Bible, a holy Hebrew Bible, yet it's written in magyar language. Now, how did that come about? It's a Babylonian dialect of magyar, but as we just established, dialect is just different sounds. And what actually shapes the actual dialects in every different aspect of land on Earth has different sort of timbres and flavours and essences and climates that shape the dialect, okay? And so environmental factors, you've got the natural ones, and then we've got sometimes the not so natural ones in the sense of the civilization at the time, whether that civilization is a truly sovereign, free-spirited civilization, and that affects the consciousness of the people there and shaping of the dialects of the language, or whether it's a civilization that's under servitude, slavery, and bondage. Okay? So those things will shape the dialects in every sort of aspect region of Earth itself. And basically speaking, this magyar language was the root language that we all spoke. Okay? And the purest form of this language is the soul communication. It's actually non-spoken. It's all felt. You know? It's like an animal growling. It's a beautiful instinctual feeling. Okay? It's highly intelligent. It's radar. Okay? And it doesn't even need to be growled. It can actually be felt if you're that attuned to it and that's centered in your soul. So this is the language of the soul. And this was our conscious, purest form of the language and the most powerful. And we were conscious right from here because the stomach's actually the real brain. This thing here is just a processor, okay? And it doesn't actually feel itself. So it's a non-sense processor, okay, that we do thinking and processing with. But it's actually not a sense, okay? This is our main sense, the gut, okay, the stomach. This is the power amp, the power source itself. This is where source consciousness comes through our soul. It's always interconnected. So it makes sense that we communicate from here first before any other sort of creation sequence process, okay? We have feel in the heart, but that's the motor, that's the engine. And the engine doesn't work, the motor doesn't work unless you've got a battery, a power source, okay? So this comes first, okay? Then we have our other senses, a smell, okay? We've got our taste, a hearing, okay? Now our hearing, if we know how to listen properly, if we only hear without listening, okay, hearing is only the fourth sense in the creation sequence. But when we actually listen consciously with our soul, our listening becomes a primary sense with our soul knowing. That's felt. You have to feel with this. This is how this technology works, this communication, how nature communicates itself. You literally have to feel it to know it's real. Your brain can't feel it to know it's real in your head. Okay? And this is what I was talking about with Tree, in the sense of intellectual colonization. We're given third-party information, okay, by the language controllers, okay, that's intellectually colonized information, because whoever controls the language controls the information source that people base their whole reality on. And if they change the language, okay, you change everyone's reality. So you're playing literally God, for lack of a better term. You're playing a tyrant in people's lives. If you change what's original organic in the first place, and you make a perversion of that language, that's what we know as malign sorcery. Okay? And you're literally creating an abomination and desecration of the original omniversal law of what is natural. What is all the natural sound, light spectrum, okay, of the language of the soul itself. Because that language has to be intact as a delivery system, so sound can actually, sound and light, which is the same thing really, okay, because it's all frequency and vibration. So that actually can be delivered from the power source, okay? So that's how it works. So the language itself, okay, let's go through the rest of that sentence. In the beginning was the word, which is the Magyar language / Magyar language. And the word Magyar language was with God. And the word Magyar language was God. So that's telling you straight there, now that it's interpreted properly, okay, that God is the Magyar language. That is the delivery system of how source consciousness communicates with itself in all of its infinite realms. And we are aspects of this source consciousness. The source consciousness is an aspect of us. So do we need to worship the language? Okay, if we worship the language, or we worship sort of like an entity, creator God of some sort of variety, well, I'll give you an example. If we worship the sun, now that sun is an aspect of us, as we are an aspect of the sun. So if we worship the sun, that's self-adulation. That's egotistic. That's narcissistic. It's bullshit. Now, in the old days, we would simply have gratitude and respect for that aspect, part of us. Because that aspect of creation is providing the energy for all life to exist physically, okay? So we have gratitude and reverence for that, and very thankful for that. But we don't need to worship it. And this worship sort of concept is a fiction. It's part of Kabbalah, okay? And it's used because all life in its most basic sort of essence of description is all about energy. We're energy. Once you know that, this body, you've got to understand the circuitry and how it all works, so you can do proper nature custodian work. And once you know that, most of the rest after that is just a distraction. I'm talking about our original purpose, the original meaning of words. And it says in the Bible, God is the language. Okay? Now, we shouldn't really use the term God, because it's the word dog backwards. And what's a dog? Okay? The dog's an animal. Okay? Now, what are animals to us? Animals are aspects of us too. It's aspects of everything, okay, of the source consciousness. Now, those animals are known to us as aspects of us as soul totem spirits. So a dog, technically speaking, is a soul totem spirit. So how can a dog be the source consciousness itself? How can it be the language? It's not. So it's really a term that's taken out of its true sort of aspect, interconnected aspect of nature, being soul totem spirit, and then making it like a false creator God and turning it into an icon when people basically worship this icon, okay, they're giving their precious, beautiful soul energy that's meant for nature custodian work to this icon, and it ends up being a soul energy harvesting trap of humans' energy. They take all that energy from us and they use that energy, our energy, manifestation energy, source energy, to create the things that they want to create, which is a very malign dystopian sort of world and future, as we're coming to know the true reality of our current surroundings at the moment, as we're going through this sort of COVID fucking bullshit, as there's no virus. The only virus is actually the people who've organised all of this, and in the so-called jabs that don't even qualify as vaccines. Anyway,
God?
I'm not here to talk.
Guys,
Yes.
can we not mention the C and the jabs, because YouTube is really out there trying to delete channels and such for anyone that's talking about this. So can we please just not mention that at all? We don't want to take a risk of being shut down.
Okay, my
Thank
apologies there.
It's okay. Thank
But
you.
yeah, so we're meant to know life firsthand through our own experience, being present in the moment of now with our senses. And we're given all of this intellectually colonized information from these people that controlled and perverted the language. So it comes to us in a third-party way, and we're given it, this third-party information, to then analyze with our processor brains that are of not a felt sense in order to work out what our reality is and how to function. So they're programming us through our language. Because if you work like that, you're not in the moment of now, because as soon as you think, you're gone. You're not in that moment. So like animals, but very highly intelligent animals, we're feeling with our senses and knowing life present in the moment with those senses. And if we can't actually feel those senses all the way from the deepest parts from within our bones to know it's real, well then literally it doesn't really exist. And even if we have a physical creation that comes from a concept, third-party sort of nonsense sort of equation concept, well, that's a fiction creation. Now, I'm going to go to the word Kabbalah, and the root meaning there, Kaba, okay? What does that mean originally in Magyar language? Because that's all that matters. Because all the confused tongue meanings are generally sort of opposite sort of meanings, satanically inverted. So we need to know what the root meaning is to know the true meaning of words, okay, in this Magyar language. Now, Kaba actually means under illusion and or drugged. That's what it means. It's fiction, illusion, maya, manas, illusion, image, okay? It's very important to know this, because once you know it and you feel it deep in your soul, that's real. So the Bible itself is actually written in Magyar language, and the Magyar language itself, through the confusion of the tongues. Okay, how did they confuse the tongues? Okay, well, it says in the Bible, in Genesis 11:7, that an alleged God decided, okay, these people are getting too close to God in the sky, whatever the reason they give there. And God decided, well, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to confuse the tongues so they can't understand themselves, because that's what they deserve. Now, just hold a minute there. After I've just given you the real meaning of what actually God is in the Bible, even though it's not a great term to use, okay? So I've gone to the language, okay? The source consciousness itself, the language being the delivery system of the source consciousness, so nature can communicate with itself in all aspects of its infinite knowing, isness. Why would a supposed God take a part of itself and twist it all up and perform an act of self-mutilation and harm. It doesn't make any sense, does it, guys? Am I making sense here? So, straight away, and I've barely got into the Bible, and I've just basically gone into some fundamental principles here, because if you don't know the fundamental principles of anything, it's like building a house. If you don't get the foundations right, everything on top, it's a waste of time. So is there any point in me going through the rest of the Bible now that you know this? I'll still go through more examples, sure. But I'm just making a point without it being a point, an action of harm. This English language in particular, it's full of words that are literally actions of harm, cutting actions. It's not a nice language. And I struggle with it continually to sort of put it in a way that doesn't have too much spelled charge, because literally language, if it's not the original language, this is malign man. Oh my goodness, sorry. So where was I up to? I'm going to get down to some basic sort of magyar word right across the world right now to show you how when they rub out the history, okay, but they've never been able to completely rub out the language, okay? So they're actually leaving some crumbs spilt on the table when they wipe out all the history of all the original tribal peoples that all spoke this beautiful language of, magical language of creation, beautiful magical language, okay? There's some words still left around today that you can see are ancient roots as they truly is. And it's actually telling us things still about our past. Even though they've rubbed out the history, there's still some history there through the language. And not many people study linguistics to actually work out this whole sort of New World Order thing and what they've done to sort of lie to us about everything. Now, all life is in language. So linguistics is a very deep science where you have to know so many interconnected areas of life, from natural medicine to allopathic medicine, to agriculture, to building, construction, engineering, mathematics, music, sound, light. You've got to know about all of these things to be a good linguist, to sort of understand language properly. And linguistics is the best thing, is the missing link through the magyar language to working all of this stuff out. So I'm going to start with Canada, okay? Let's take this word Ottawa, okay? Now, what does Ottawa mean? Guys, any of you guys, Omar, do you know what Ottawa means? I don't know if you can hear me at the moment, but
yeah, it's
anyway.
the capital city of Canada.
Okay, right. So that's they tell you in the school books, okay? They tell you in the school books, okay, this is Ottawa and it's the capital city of Canada. That's a basic surface sort of meaning. But what does the actual word mean? Okay.
I'm not really quite sure what the actual word means, but I know that the way we pronounce it, there's two ways to pronounce it. One is the English, which is Ottawa, and which is the perverted way of saying it, and then the original native language way to say it is Ottawa.
That's right. Yes, because it's more ut. Yeah.
Yeah, Ottawa. Right?
That's right.
The Aboriginal have that like.
That's very good. That's very good.
Language.
And that's very sort of magyar sounding in its dialect and how he's saying. Yes.
Yeah, so it's like it's almost like when we were having our last conversation, I mentioned it in passing that when I was up in Northwest Territories in Yellowknife and interacting with the Inuit people up there, when they were speaking the Inuit language, it almost sounded like that they were speaking Arabic. And there were points and times when they were speaking that I was picking up the language, that some of the words that they were speaking, I was kind of understanding what they were saying. So I was really taken back by that, because Arabic is one of my languages that I spoke when I was growing up. So I understand it quite well. well, not anymore because I don't speak it on a daily basis, but when I hear it, I understand it, right? And then
Yeah,
when
the sounds come back to you. It resonates from that memory in your soul.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah. And when the Inuit were talking, I was like, wow, this is quite something, because how is that even possible, right? So I didn't put two and two together until I met you and you started talking and started to inform about the original language. And then when I talked to you about it, then it really started to make sense as to why their language is sounding more like Arabic and Phoenician, like not Phoenician.
Oh yeah,
yeah, like so, towards that line.
And it's interesting because the original Phoenicians were the naval branch of the Magyars, otherwise known as Scythians. That's more of a sort of common term that a lot of people can understand more in Europe and the UK. Scythians. Now, a lot of people in the UK think the Scythians are all Jews. Okay, well, they're all Magyars before they're Jews. I won't go into how that all happened just yet. We're going into the technical aspects of the language here, okay, rather than the sort of the conspiracy sort of aspects. So we're looking at Ottawa here, Ottawa, and I'm going to break this word down for you so you actually know what it means, because the Magyar language itself, because it's the actual original omniversal language of organic creation, this language never lies. It's source consciousness. Because if it actually lied to itself, it's going to lie to everyone else, and it's not going to be organic, okay? So, Ottawa. Now, in even your Mohican sort of language there, ut. Do you know what ut means?
No, I don't, Gauze.
Okay, I'll tell you what it means. It means 5, like the number 5, okay? And then the next part of the word, T-A-W, Tor, means lake, okay? And then the wa at the end is actually a location suffix. Now, the thing about Magyar language, it's all about having a root meaning, and then you have all of these sort of poly-interchangeable suffixes. It's all about the suffixes more than sort of like just nouns, verbs, like we have in English and stuff like that. So it's about all the interchangeable suffixes. It can be a prefix, suffix, lots of different things going on. So the wa is a location suffix that essentially indicates the place of, okay? So what Ottawa means is the place of 5 lakes, okay? Now, if you go on Google Earth, okay, and look down at Toronto, what do you see? 5 lakes. Now, that is star map knowledge.
I was going to say CN Tower.
What's that, brother?
I was going to say CN Tower because that's, I think, the highest standing structure in Toronto.
Oh, right, I see.
Yeah.
But yeah, when you basically look down,
around, man, it's still early, trying to add some humor into it.
oh, that's absolutely. Well, you know what I'm like when I turn into a larrikin, so I've got to keep that on the leash a little bit. But Ottawa literally means 5 lakes, because that's literally it. You know, there's 5 lakes there in the Toronto area, and you look down from the stars, which essentially, it's like Google Earth looking down like that. Is like having an artificial star map telling you what's going on, because what a star map is because the land is a microcosm of the greater macrocosm of the stars above. So literally, why is it a star map? Because we know the land and the seas and everything as how they align to their counterparts, their aspects, the same aspects in that sort of microcosm above there, in that realm, they completely line up. Okay? So when we know how to read a star map, we can navigate the lands and the seas underneath them, because we literally know the lands and the seas by what's under all the different sort of astronomical and astrological sort of placements and knowledge. It's the same in Australia. I'll give you an example in Australia. In the Brisbane area, okay, which is the capital of Queensland now, there was a main Magyar tribe there, and they were called the Buck tribe. If you come from the Buck tribe, I'm Bucky, okay? And what Buck means is a goat. Now, what's the goat in the sky, okay? What's that sort of natural sort of archetype, you know? This is how nature expresses itself in soul and spirit, okay? In these shapes, okay? It's Capricorn. So if you're basically sailing from the other side of the world and you want to get to Brisbane area, where the Buck tribe is, you literally follow all the way because it's right under Capricorn. It's that simple. This is how we knew it. Now, in order to know this stuff properly, we had to be able to center it in our souls. Like, as I said earlier, our most fluent form of the Magyar language was our primary instinct, gut instinct language, okay? And it was consciousness. It was conscious. And the confused tongue language is what made this gut instinct unconscious. This is why we all struggle so much to find meaning in our life. And we're told to, okay, the first line of defense is religion, and then they got spirituality. Now, spirituality is all about the soul, totem, spirit aspects. And that's all great, but that's all got to be grounded in the soul as well. So you've got to know the soul mechanics first to properly know how the spirit aspects are described and truly is. So if we don't have the grounding of the soul mechanics, we don't get to truly comprehend what all the spirit aspects are all about. And when we're centered in our soul, all of our spirit aspects here literally become one, as the rosters know. One love, one soul. And we've all been genetically hybrided so much by now. We've all got a bit of everything in it genetically, so it's hard to find our way home just by following genetics. But if we follow the soul aspects of genetics, that takes us home, all of us. We can all find our tribe home. Because while we're all human, look, by this stage of the equation, we're all in cartoon skin suits, regardless of whether you're white, you're black, you're yellow, whatever colour. So it's the soul. And I see true, the most ancient, oldest Magyar souls. I meet them all the time in every walk of life. You know, they can be Asian, they can be African, they can be in all genetic types. It doesn't matter whether you're still of the purest sort of genetic types or the most hybrid. You've all got souls. And the thing is that when original tribes genetically get split up with these sort of like Draco hybrid human tribes, well, in our original tribes, we never interbred with other aspects of life that were not our jurisdiction of nature, where we focused on and maintained, because we look after Mother Nature, it looks after us, we have paradise here, heaven on earth. It's that simple. Okay? If we don't maintain that, it all goes to crap. Just to put it in the simplest way. So basically speaking, I see beautiful souls everywhere. And what happens is that when you mix these sort of tribal lines that are not meant to be mixed together, what happens is you end up getting souls that start splitting in all sorts of directions and ending up in tribes and places that they're not meant to be. And this is why we're all searching for our soul family, because this is what's happened to all of our souls. We've all ended up in places we don't know where we are anymore. We're trying to find our way home. And our home's right here in the soul. And that's the only thing that's ever going to tell you the truth, is your gut instinct, to put it in the most simple way. So it makes sense to become fluent again in our instinct language. We have to map this all again. We have to map the consciousness of our unconscious realm here to make it conscious, so we become sovereign in our soul again. And once we become sovereign in our soul again, we can't be manipulated from below anymore by the parasites that are not even qualified to be omniversal nature custodians, because they're making a mess of everything. They're like belligerent little spoiled children that refuse to grow up, yet they want control of everything. And they're playing with big boy toys by still being little sort of belligerent babies. And it's the true reality of our surroundings, whether you like it or not. And we're changing that now. And we're bringing in a beautiful future. And this language is such a beautiful, beautiful language. And it's giving it back to us. Okay? So that's one example in Brisbane, the Buck tribe. Okay? Let's go down to Sydney. There was a tribe down there called the Daruk tribe. Okay? That's just out west a little bit here towards sort of Homebush sort of area. Okay? I'm in Sydney, more closer to the city. I'm in a place called Wallumaloo. Okay, we say it in original language, Wallamala, and it literally means, in Magyar language itself, okay, because this is the core of where Magyar language actually came out of in the sort of Lemurian sort of era, long before the Atlantean era, and Wallamala means where the boats moor, okay, where the boats come in, where the boats moor. This is literally where all the boats used to come in. So the Magyar language is very, very simple. It just tells you, it describes the geography of the place truly as it is. It's fantastic. It's really simple. Okay? So the Daruk tribe, if we look up in the Magyar language, even today, I think you'll even get this one in Google Translate for how fickle that is. Daruk is a crane. Okay? It's a bird. And why is it the Daruk tribe? Because it's directly under the crane constellation, okay? So let's go over to Western Australia, and they have what's called the Nyul Ranges, okay? Nyul, what's that? Okay, I looked that up in Magyar again. That's a hare or a rabbit. And the Nyul Ranges, have a look above in the sky. Oh yeah, it's a rabbit, astrologically. Okay, so there's clear-cut evidence of the Magyar language here in Australia from ancient times, still here today.
Gus, 5 minutes.
Okay, that's gone rather
5
quick.
minutes, brother. I want to bring my next speaker on.
Okay, then. So I've given you some examples. I'm going to go one more example now to show you that the original Judea of the Bible is actually in Scotland. Okay? It's not where Judea, Israel is today, which is essentially occupied Palestine. That all got moved after a reset event, after they basically created this holy Hebrew Bible distortion of the original omniversal law. So look at the word Edinburgh, okay? Let's break that word down. Eden, what does actual Eden mean? You know, Eden. We're all talking about the Garden of Eden, but does anyone actually know what the meaning of Eden is?
No, I don't, but it's very interesting that you just mentioned that Edinburgh, and it just kind of just rang in my head when you said anybody know what the word Eid means, because when you look at in Islam, 2 of their holiest holidays are called Eid, like Eid and Eid. Right, so there's a bit of a correlation connection there. I don't know if that's what you meant.
No, that's good that you mentioned that, okay, because the Arabic connection is very, very important, actually, and we'll get onto that in the next talk that we do, okay? It's very good that you mentioned that. I'm going to tell you what the meaning of Eden is. It's a very old Magyar word that's been taken out of dictionaries now, and I learned this from Attila Flink. And this man knew the oldest Magyar words. It was incredible. And he said, people would never know this word today unless someone like me still around, because I loved language from when I was a little boy. So I learned all languages and everything because I loved it. It was my hobby. And I found out that basically the original word Eden in Magyar means Jews. Okay? So when you're talking about the Garden of Eden is in the Hebrew Bible as what it is, it's actually saying Garden of Jews, but Magyar language. Jews. How does that fit in? We'll get to that. Okay, so Eden means Jews. Now, let's look at the next part of the word, Berg. Okay, that's a bit of an easier one. Okay, B-U-R-G-H. It's the same sounding word as B-E-R-G, It's essentially an Anglo-Saxon German word that means castle, fortress, or mountain. Okay, so what Edinburgh means is fortress of the Jews. Okay, it's a hybrid word.
Oh,
It's half Magyar, it's half Anglo-Saxon German. Okay.
yeah, it makes sense. It does make
Yes.
sense, actually. Yeah.
So this
When
is
you
how
said
you.
that, when you said that, the whole Bible and the correlating books just quickly ran through my head, and it's like, okay, yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
It's like Loch Ness as well. That's another Magyar and Anglo-Saxon German sort of word. Like Nesh is like a faint sort of hum. Okay.
Mhm.
Loch is more of a German word for sort of like a crevice, an opening. So it's like a Loch Ness is like a faint hum that's coming from the abyss, sort of, you know, an opening down
Oh,
there.
I
Okay?
see. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
What about
So
Ogo Pogo?
I couldn't tell you.
No, I thought I'd ask you because the Ogopogo is the creature that lives in the Okanagan Lake, just not too far from here, and it's the same as the Loch Ness Monster. And some people think that the Loch Ness Monster and the Ogopogo may be one and the same, or belong to the same same.
Well, I'm going to do some homework. I'm going to do some
creature
homework for
family.
next time we talk, and I'm going to look at the word Ogopogo, okay, and I'm going to work out the meaning of Ogopogo, and we're going to find something from this, because this is how we find out what our reality is. If we can work out the original meaning of words, we work out the original history at the same time. It's pretty amazing. Okay, this is the clues. These are the crumbs that are spilt on the table. It's still there to be able to see the true reality. Okay, the true history that they've basically covered up and lied about. So basically, okay, if we were to basically say in Magyar, not the like Edinburgh is a hybrid word. Okay, if we were to say it in straight Magyar, we would say Edinburgh. Okay, V-A with a dash above the A to indicate a longer A, and then R, Edinburgh. Okay, now everyone out there listening, go and do a Google search. Just go Edinvar, one word, and you see what comes up. Okay, Edinburgh. Okay, now you'll find that there is an Edinburgh still in Scotland. And guess what it is? It's called Castle Rock Housing Community Association. Okay? Very interesting. Even in Castle Rock, it's got a bit of the original sort of meaning there. Okay? Because it's basically Fortress of the Jews or Mountain of the Jews or the castle. Okay? The castle aspect is correct. But I wonder if those people up there even know what that means anymore. But there you have it, right there today, evidence of the Magyar language in Scotland before there were any Jews.
How do you, just one thing,
it can't be refuted. And I don't even need to write it down on a piece of paper. So there it is. Sorry.
Yeah, it's okay, guys. I want to bring my next speaker on, but just quickly, just two questions. One is from New Realities. Asks, I believe it's Qua Cub Astra, is how do you spell the Magyar that you're referring to? And then Chanel Wolford asks, may I ask what language he was referring to, Magyar?
Okay. If you were to basically pronounce Magyar in English, you'd go Magyar, okay? Now, English doesn't have the phonetic strength to be able to pronounce Magyar words. Like Magyar's got 38 letter sounds, okay? English has only got 26. So it doesn't have the phonetic strength. So to translate spoken sort of native languages, putting straight into English as it happens, you know, with the, like I'll just tell you straight away, most of the American Indian tribes, right down from Alaska, the Inuits, right down to South America, they all spoke this Magyar language. And I can send you some links on this that's been written by some Hungarians and a story about how these Hungarian people had moved into Canada and they had a maid that was an Indian, okay, from an Indian tribe. And these Hungarians were talking to each other And this Indian maid used to listen to them all the time, and they noticed that this Indian maid, she could understand everything that they were saying. And she was like looking at them going, yeah, I can understand what you're saying, because it's her native language. And when you hear stories like that, how can you refute that proof?
Yeah, exactly. I thought about the same thing when I was saying about the Inuit language and with the Arabic. That to me was, it's almost groundbreaking to the point where it makes you, makes you think. Back then I was, sound asleep and I really didn't put two and two together. But, now that, I got my eyes slightly open, right, I'm beginning to question. It's really starting to make a whole lot of sense. And especially after talking with you, the sesh that we had a couple of weeks ago, and then today, and then the one coming up tomorrow, I've learned a lot. So with that being said, Gaz, I'm going to let you go for the time being. Thank you very much, Omi.
I'd just like to say in conclusion that Kabbalah is a complete perversion of the original omniversal law, that be which is the magyar language, okay? And on the next talk that we have, I'm going to explain how they confused the tongues. I know exactly how they did it, okay? So everyone who's listening now, I'm going to go straight into that next time, and you will know the mechanics of how they confused the tongues. And they say that God confused the tongues, right, in the way that I explained before. But isn't it ironic, very ironic, that the Bible itself is talking about God confused the tongues at this point back in time before the Bible was actually written, okay? Yet the Bible was written in the same language before the tongues got confused. Hello?
Pretty awesome.
Hello?
Yeah,
Yeah, there you go. So I look forward to next time to explaining how they confused the tongues. Thank you,
awesome.
guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Gaz. I really appreciate it, brother. I love you very much, and I really appreciate your knowledge and your insight into our ancient, history and our ancient ancestors.
I didn't even realize we were on camera, and I'm sitting here like,
This is all about language.
just
and I'd love
listening,
to
just
say
trained.
that the highest, deepest form of love you can give and gift to anybody is the gift of true knowledge. Because once you have the gift of true knowledge, you can know all that bewitches yourself and all of life. Okay? And when they say,
Very true.
oh, you need to love yourself, you've got to give yourself the gift of true knowledge. That's true loving yourself. It's not just washing, having a shower and pampering yourself every day and doing nice things for yourself. That's just surface stuff. This is the real meaning of self-love, people. You give yourself the gift of true knowledge.
Exactly right.
Really glad that you mentioned that, because in the description of this total disclosure, I mentioned in there that our speakers are giving us the ultimate gift, and that gift is of knowledge. So I'm really glad that you said that, because it really ties in to what I said in the description. Awesome, guys. Thank you very much, brother. I will see you. When are you speaking again? Let me just quickly. Oh, I don't have that open right now, but I believe you're speaking tomorrow. Tomorrow morning. Yeah. So tomorrow morning, I got a 2-hour session with Gaz. So guys, keep an eye out for that. It's going to be the first thing in the morning. A wicked download first thing in the morning. Who doesn't like that? That's like going doing drywall at like 6 o'clock in the morning.
Yes. And I'm going to pick out a lot more examples. First, in that longer sort of thing. Next, I'm going to explain how they confused the tongues to create Kabbalah and all the confused tongue languages and all the math formulas, how they did that. Okay. And then after that, I'll go through some more examples, just simple examples around the world today, so you can see all the root meanings of words in places where the language still exists. And I'm going to pick some places where you're going to think, well, what's Hungarian language doing over there? What's it doing over there? What's it doing over there? And these are the questions we need to ask. So, yeah, I'm looking real forward to it.
Me too. Cool. Me too. Very much looking forward to it. Right on. Thank you very much, guys. you.